Welcome to Gunz Bunz. I'm Bethany Guthard. This is a podcast that celebrates strong and successful women. Please like and subscribe to Gunz Rollz fitness channel to see more episodes just like this one. Today I have my dear friend and guest, Stephanie Ciuclea. Is that how you say it?
You said it perfectly.
I did.
You
Wonderful.
did it.
I'm like trying to rehearse that one. But I train in Brazilian Jiu-jitsu with Stephanie, and I've met her through our gym, and we have just become close friends. She's a friend in Jesus as well, and I just adore that about her. So I'm going to let Stephanie begin today, just kind of telling us a little bit about herself, because I've grown to just love her dearly, and I know you will too. Go ahead.
I love you too. Like Bethany said, I am a firm believer in Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. But that being said, it was one of those things that I kind of shared with you before that I found on my own. I am a rare breed. I am a Charlotte native. I grew up in uptown Charlotte in Noda before it was the new swanky hipster Noda. It was the ghetto, like really poor, run-down areas of Charlotte back then. So that being said, I grew up, in that minority. And then, through many years of living in Charlotte, parents had a rough marriage, ended up splitting up right around the age of 12, and it was not the best departure from each other. A lot of resentment with my mom and dad. My mom struggled with a lot of things in her life, a lot of trauma that caused her to make some unhealthy choices. And my dad was a Marine veteran, so he struggled with a lot of PTSD, a lot of undiagnosed things that came out later with, manic depressant, bipolar depression. So it was just a lot of things I grew up seeing and, a lot of my own trauma. But that being said, God is who he is, and he made a way for me by bringing my neighbors into my life. And one day those neighbors, I was outside playing, and they said, "Hey, come to our Bible study tonight." And it was just one of the things I was like, we had grown up going to church with my grandparents and stuff like that, but nothing ever, firm with my parents, wanting to take us to church or venture out into that world. My mom had a lot of church hurt growing up. So I just started going to that church, and I, found Jesus on my own at 12. And after my mom and dad divorced and a couple years went by, my mom decided to pack us up and leave and head down towards where we are now in Indian Land, South Carolina. Did not know what this place was. It was the boonies back then. There was like 2 stoplights. Now it's like a booming town. But it was a lot of culture shock for me. I didn't live with my mom when we first moved down here. I lived with my stepdad's parents, which were my step-grandparents. So it was just a lot of different things going on in my life. So that's kind of just like a backstory. And it had started me further into that love of Jesus and trying to find that outlet.
That's awesome. I'm so happy you were able to find something that kind of supported you, maybe took your mind off of whatever was going on at home. So tell me a little bit about how you met your husband, Chris.
So he doesn't remember, but the first time I actually saw my husband was in Indian Land, and I was 16, way too young to be thinking about him because he is 4 years older than me. So, so fast forwarding to probably 4 or 5 years later, I'm about 19 years old, and we end up being neighbors. And he just, we just started hanging out. One thing led to another. He asked me on a date. Then we ended up moving into a rental together because I've always been independent, always kind of lived on my own since around the age of 17. And so we just thought, putting our money together and our independence together and moving into it with each other. And then in 2013, we got married. And in 2015, we had our son. And then in 2018, we had our daughter. So it's just been one of those things that kind of like my little own fairy tale. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. And your kids are great. They, Noah and my Jacob are the same age pretty much. And they're just good friends. And they train together at the gym as well. So your whole entire family trains Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
They do.
So what got you guys into Jiu-Jitsu?
My husband.
Okay.
My husband, after Holly was born, or actually, sorry, backtrack, before she was born, he had a lot of anxiety. And he had gained some weight because before my son was born, he had quit smoking. He was a cigarette smoker.
Yeah.
And to kind of help him deal with that, he started jiu-jitsu. That really, really was one of the biggest things for him that helped him with his anxiety was jiu-jitsu. And probably after 4 months postpartum with Holly, he said, you need to go try it too. It's going to empower you. It's going to, get you in shape. It's something great for you as a mom to make you feel strong and, able. So I started it. There was probably 2 girls at the time. I remember my first class that we went to, because it's not like that now.
Yeah.
There was no girls. And I trained with the professor, and it was very intimidating. But I will say it was probably the best thing I've ever done out of my comfort zone, because 6 years later, here I am.
Now, did you have an athletic background growing up? Did you play sports?
Not really. Indian land back then was very small, so you could kind of not even try out for a sport. You would just sign up for a sport and you'd get in it. So I did do volleyball before. I've done soccer before, track before, but nothing that was like super competitive or big. This was probably my first like competitive sport I've done that was like for me, like that I wanted to do. So
absolutely. And that's kind of why I wanted to do this podcast, because when I started jiu-jitsu, same idea, like my husband got me into it. But you were one of those really like influential women at the gym that was like, hey, are you training? And I just remember being like, oh my gosh, this girl's so nice. Of course, I would love to. I know, right? I would totally love to train. And I really didn't know what I was getting into. And I came from this background where I didn't grow up doing sports. Like, I think the extent of my athletic background was running. Like, I did a couple of races, but like I have never competed in an aggressive sport like jiu-jitsu.
And look at you now.
I know, right? And our program has grown. Our women's program has gotten so big, and I just adore it. The friendships and how it challenges you. I think it also changed like my idea of like what makes a strong female, win or lose even. Because there are so many times I think we attribute like success and strength to like winning, and that's one thing about jiu-jitsu. It just challenges you on another level, win or lose. You. Yes, absolutely. You can be winning one day and the next day losing, but there's just so much growth and a lesson learned in that loss. So I thought that was pretty cool as well. Like,
it's one of those unique sports where it's your competitor can have an off day and you can have a great day, and the next time you go against them, it's going to be completely opposite. Yeah, because you're always growing and learning as you go. Yeah, I'm just so shocked at like how I can keep coming back. Right. But there's there's so much to be learned in it. I'm also intrigued by the women I meet in this sport, because you have women that have been college D1 athletes doing it. You have police officers, men and women though at the gym that are police officers. We have a lot of veterans. And then you have just average women like me that didn't have any athletic background, and we're doing it, and and it's so cool how it just like makes you feel strong than others. But it just makes you feel like strong and like empowered, and it really does. That's why I really wanted to do this, because I feel like we all have just such a great story to tell, and so I would love to learn more. What would you say is one of the hardest things you have ever done, whether it's sports related, family, just being a mom? Being a mom, and probably the birth of my daughter was the hardest thing, because it was totally, like, I won't go into the details because I think I've told you before, but she was just like, she came early, not too early, like a week early, no expectation whatsoever. Didn't really have a birth plan, but I was like, oh, I definitely want that epidural, because I learned from my son. Yeah. But no, she came in like 30 minutes of contraction starting, so it was a very whirlwind situation. That was probably the hardest thing I'd done, because my husband didn't have time to get there. My mom barely had time to get me through the threshold of the hospital before she was coming out. Wow. So that was probably one of the hardest things I did. And I will say, like, probably moving out on my own was another one of the hardest things, because I kind of had no guidance or nothing to kind of like show me, oh, this is how it's going to be or how it should be. So that was one of those things I kind of had to figure out independently, with a lot of trial and error and a lot of financial mistakes. But we made it happen. Yeah, made our way. How, who, what, I guess, would you say
kind of was your biggest like source of strength when you were going through those hard times as a like let's circle back to when you were a teenager.
Yeah.
Like you said, moving out on your own, that was a hard thing to kind of do on your own. What would you say was like your biggest like support or source of support? Or who?
Not really a who, it's more of what. It's God. It's always going to come back to him. Only because I probably wasn't as close as I should have been with God when I moved out. Because of course I'm a 17-year-old. I want to explore, and it's the first time getting to do whatever I want to do on my own. And of course there's all these temptations around, and I'm by myself. Nobody's there to tell me no.
Yeah.
So I probably fell back a lot with my relationship with God, but it always was there. It always was something that kind of guided me and led me not astray as far as I probably might have gone. So yeah, I would attribute it to that.
That's awesome. Tell us a little bit about like what you do on a daily basis, like as far as a career. I know your career has changed here. Yeah, no, but it's changed here and there. And if you could kind of speak about like what your day job is and or has been, and then what you guys are currently doing now, because you have some exciting things brewing.
I've always been in education. I think that's one of my main things I was known for until recently. But yeah, since I was 18, I was offered a job to work in a daycare, and it just kind of stuck. I've always loved being around children and teaching, and just let that be my path. My last job that I had full time was at a wonderful preschool where I finally got to be an administrator assistant, and I loved it. It was absolutely wonderful. But my wonderful husband, is venturing out into a new venture, and we started Airbnb.
Yeah.
We found some land, ironically, coming home from church one day. We had been praying on it, and it was kind of like, here it is.
Awesome.
So we made an offer. We got about an acre and a half, started building a house on it. It's taken off. It's been a year now. So
Nice.
the Airbnb is doing good. We're almost finished with the second one.
Wonderful.
We will be moving into that second one and renting out our home. Our home has been a labor of love for, 12, 11 years now, fully remodeled. So we're going to start Airbnb ours out. So that's just one of those things. I clean and help maintain those. My husband builds them. And then I do photography on the side. I do a lot of,
Gosh, I forgot.
some pictures of Bethany. Follow me. No, but seriously, that was one of those things I started at COVID because I didn't go to work for that pretty much 6 months during the peak of that whole pandemic.
Yeah.
And I had to do something. I was going stir crazy. So I started up photography and do it mainly for our gym, Triumph Fight Academy, and do family photos here and there for friends and people word of mouth. But yeah, it's just one of those things.
Where can people find you? On
Stephanie
Instagram?
Ciuclea Photography, Instagram or Facebook.
That's awesome.
At me.
Your pictures are beautiful, by the way. And I'm not just saying that because we're friends, but they're beautiful.
It's fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Would you ever maybe go down that path where it's just you're doing the pictures like 100%? Or
I feel like I'm one of those people, and my husband will agree. I get sidetracked and I always like splinter off. I'll start something. I'm like, oh, but I want to go do this. And I want to go do that. I've talked to you about many other things I want to start doing. And it's just, I'm always trying to find something else to do. I do TikTok affiliate now too. So you can find me on TikTok. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Like I'm always trying to find that next thing to kind of, no pun intended, like keep me at home because I love being around my kids. I love not having to go do that 9 to 5 now. I've kind of gotten used to that routine. So I'm trying to just, also be a partner to my husband and making sure that I'm at least bringing home something, whether it's doing the dishes one day or going out. And I do sub. I sub at my kids' school too. So yeah, it's kind of like.
You're so brave.
Listen, we've talked about it,
Right?
But yeah, it's just, I try to stay busy. Busy is blessed. So
yeah. What would you say is the most rewarding part of all of those endeavors that you do?
Being able to do it. Because there's a lot of people that can't do certain things. Every time I have a hard day at jiu-jitsu, I go home and I think I'm like, well, why am I complaining? Some people can't do this. Some people physically cannot get out of bed or cannot go to work or don't have a husband that supports them with their dreams and what they want to do and can provide for them to have a camera and to, be able to clean an Airbnb. So I try to just stay grateful and grounded in that and just, like I said, be blessed to be busy.
Yeah.
So.
And you're so well-rounded and having all those different things you can do. That's amazing. And you do it well. So how do you handle when challenges or setbacks get in the way? How do you typically manage those challenges?
We're still figuring that out.
I know.
I say we, like I had like 50 people in my head, but yeah, I sometimes it's hard. I can tend to be an anxious mom.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always wanting things to be like, perfect, and I always have my planner and I always have things set, and it
Mm-hmm.
never goes as planned.
Yeah, absolutely.
This year has started off as a whirlwind, as you know.
Yes.
It's just this has been the longest year already.
Yeah.
January is a long year.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, it's just I try to just do my best. I mean,
Yeah.
through prayer and through guidance and reaching out to
Yeah.
friends like
Yes.
you. Like if I'm having a bad day, I'll
Mhm.
text you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, help me.
Yeah, and
It's
that's
just
another
hard.
thing.
Yeah.
Women are just like, I mean, I feel what I have found in being a part of our gym, our jiu-jitsu gym, is the camaraderie of the women, the support. I have
Yes.
never met a bunch of females that support each other and lift each other up like the girl group
And
that we
genuinely,
have
we
developed.
love each other. Like
Yes.
there's not anything I can't. And there's so many different people in our group, like so many
Yes.
different backgrounds. I can go to
Yes.
somebody for this. I can go to somebody for that. I'm having a
Mhm.
problem with this. Like when I messed up my ankle in the
Yeah.
beginning of the year,
Yeah.
I could reach out to our friend that, specializes in stuff
Yeah.
like that. And then I come to for all my guidance with
Yeah.
understanding of anything I'm going through,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
it's just, we have that common ground through prayer and everything. And
Right.
I mean, there's just so many supportive aspects of our girl group, and I can't talk about it enough. I mean, we could probably have a whole nother,
Discussion.
hour and a half on
Yeah.
this, but it's just, you don't find that everywhere. And the fact that we've found that in our girl group,
I
like, it's
know.
just,
I know. I was telling my husband about it that after like one of the last tournaments we did, it was just looking at pictures and seeing some of the females in our gym that had competed for the very first time and they were successful. And then
Yes.
just seeing us all gathering around and then breaking bread together at dinner
Mhm.
afterwards, it's like it makes you emotional
It really
because
does.
like I don't know any other place in life where I would come in contact with those women
Mm-mm.
because we all come from different backgrounds, some different countries, some, different religious views, some speaking different languages. It's like you have these preconceived notions as a human being about other people until
Yeah.
you actually get to know them on a very intimate level. And I feel like jujitsu is one of those
Right.
places where you can
And
do
we
that.
probably wouldn't have ever crossed paths with certain people.
No,
Like
absolutely not.
yeah.
Yeah. Coming from the education world, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm a teacher too. So like I know how typical like teachers are. Like we're all very similar, very type A, like
Yeah.
perfectionist type people. And it's just kind of cool going back to the whole sport of jiu-jitsu that like I've met you and I've met some of these really wonderful, powerful women, I
Yeah.
believe. And it has kind of changed again, going back to that whole idea, what is strong? What does success mean? And you see it in different ways in all of these women. And so it's
And
just been amazing.
therapeutic. It's really, you've had a
Yeah.
bad day at work before and come in and
Yes.
just be like, it's
Yes.
on. Like, I'm
Yes.
coming for you today. Or, and we
Yeah.
have that camaraderie. Like,
Mhm.
you have that bad day at work, we can
Mhm.
download at jiu-jitsu
Mhm.
and just
Absolutely.
let it
Yeah.
all go.
What advice would you give someone that's just starting out in jiu-jitsu?
Don't give up.
Yeah.
Give
Mhm.
it that first month.
Mhm.
That first month is going to be like a whirlwind. You're going to be
Yeah.
overwhelmed. A lot of different things are going to be thrown at you all at once. Just stick with it. It's
Yeah.
it's fun. It's rewarding. And once you get past that and make those friendships and get that support group, it's you're gonna love it. You're
Yeah.
really good. It's addicting.
Yes.
And even if you
Yes.
don't, there's so many other ways to get into a different sport. We have kickboxing
Yes.
there. There's MMA. There's just different things. But I say for all women, you should at least try jiu-jitsu at
Mhm.
least for 30 days, because you're gonna get something out of it, whether it's protecting yourself,
Yeah.
building self-esteem, or just getting out of your comfort zone and
Yeah.
just feeling that empowerment of, I did it. I
Yeah.
did something.
Absolutely. Kevin, my husband, and we always talk about how, like, even if, like, let's say you do a tournament or let's say you just go to the gym for a day, like, you're still lapping everyone else that's home doing nothing or sitting on the
Yeah.
couch. So, I mean, just getting out and trying, you may fail miserably, but there is just so much reward that comes from doing something like that. And again, it doesn't have to be jujitsu. It could be
Right.
anything that
Right.
you are, actively moving and
It's getting out of
just
that comfort
yes,
zone. Trying
yes.
something new and just throwing fear to the wind and just saying, I'm going to try it. I'm going to do it. And
absolutely.
What do you have to lose?
I know.
You're only here once. What do you have to lose?
Right. What would you say, like we've talked about success and strength, what does strong, successful look like to you?
I think being a good person is strong to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily physical because I'm not physically strong by any means.
She's
I try.
Strong.
I try.
You are strong.
We're working on it this year. We got a slow start. But yeah, just being a good person and being emotionally strong. I think that's something that as women, sometimes we can be told we're too soft or we're too emotional or we're too this and that and whatever. And I think it's just being confident in yourself shows strength. And I mean, that's something I still work on because I'm not always confident in myself. I'll leave jiu-jitsu or, leave work or whatever and be like, oh my gosh, I failed miserably today. But knowing that, like you said, there's other people that are not doing it and I did it. So just try not to be hard on myself.
And just keep coming back, keep applying that work.
Yeah.
I think that too with work. As a teacher, every day is a different day. No day is like the previous day.
You don't know what you're going to get.
There's so many factors that control your day when you're a teacher, and I know you know that. But I was thinking the same thing. Like, there are days where you just feel defeated because things don't go as planned or didn't, like, you feel like, oh, that wasn't my best day of teaching or that wasn't my best day just, being present in the classroom, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And there are days where you may feel inadequate, but like just keep coming back and like trying to drill down those problem areas, the areas that you need strengthening, right? And so I think that's one thing that being a strong female, being successful is just always trying to reflect, being reflective of your practice, whatever it may be. And then also just trying to perfect it. And it may never be perfect, but at least you're trying.
Right. You're striving for something.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that definitely is what success looks like. Do you have a hobby or an interest that you are passionate about? I mean, I know you mentioned the photography, you do jiu-jitsu.
I tried to make sourdough.
Oh, yeah, sourdough bread. It's all the rave.
It's terrible.
Like the gym.
No, Addie definitely has me beat on that. My husband will bake it and I'll say I did it, but or my mother-in-law, she makes great bread too. Shout out to Irene. And then I'll claim her success for mine. But no, I try. I don't really have many hobbies outside of what we talked about.
Yeah. You have an immaculate house. You're very.
Thank you.
You're very.
I am a clean freak. I am a clean freak. I just hide my laundry well. But yes, I do try to keep a tidy home. I mean, I guess cleaning's a hobby. My husband's gonna laugh when he sees this because he's like, huh? But, yeah.
I know. I'm always like, is it you or is it Chris? Who's the neat freak in that relationship? I can tell. I think it's a little bit of both of you.
Yeah. Yes. Aww. He trained me well. I'm just kidding.
Okay. Would you say that there's ever been like maybe a failure that you've had in your life or an obstacle, maybe different from what we've spoken about, that ended up being like a blessing or ended up kind of shaping who you are today?
It's kind of an emotional one. It's not necessarily a failure, but I felt like a failure at the time when my dad passed. It's kind of a long story, but I had power of attorney over him, so I had to make a lot of decisions. His last few months of life, we thought we had longer time, but he got COVID and it just went kaput. But he was a retired Marine veteran, and he had a lot of health issues from his time in Camp Lejeune and everywhere else. He had a lot of health problems. I feel, he was on the right path. He was quitting smoking. He was getting healthy. And then he got septic pneumonia. He had to be put in a nursing home, and he was only 60 years old. And he did not make it to his 61st birthday. But I just remember that was probably one of the most challenging things I've been through in my life. And, not something you want to do that early on. I mean, my kids were really young. I was young. And you never think about burying your dad in your 30s, but I just remember having to go to those table meetings with doctors and, hey, we need you to sign no resuscitation orders, then we need you to make some tough calls, and you put on a brave face and you make those tough calls at those tables, and then you break down the car, and then you got to suck it up 30 minutes later, go pick up your kids from school, or, keep being a mom and keep being a wife. And you push those things down. I think that was the hardest thing, was learning not to push those things down and to feeling those feelings. And I remember a good friend of ours, Brittany, she had lost her father too, and she had told me some really good advice. She's like, Stephanie, you're going to feel great one day, and it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks the next. And I mean, she didn't say it in those exact words, but it really helped me think, okay, it's okay to be okay today. And it might happen tomorrow. It might happen in a month, but I just got to make sure that I'm feeling the feelings, going through it, working through it. And every once in a while it still gets me. I'm really surprised I'm not crying right now. Yeah. But I think the more I talk about it and bring awareness to that situation, and I think, I can attest to God putting us through certain things. Yeah. So I can be there for somebody that might go through this, God forbid, one of our friends or whoever family member goes through the same thing. I could be there for them and say, okay, I've been there. Let me help you walk through it. Absolutely.
And being a Christian, and I too lost my dad back in 2014. He passed away from cancer. And I do remember kind of feeling at one point like, okay, God, what are you going to do? Like praying for healing and then it not, coming in the way I thought healing would come, right?
You
like
feel so defeated because you're like, here I am trying to be faithful to you.
Yeah.
You're not answering my prayers, but then that's when it's really hard that fine line of faith, when you have to just be like, all right, this is what your will is. So I got to find why this is happening. And it might not be for me to find out why. Absolutely. It's not going to come today. Right. It might be years down the line. Okay, this is why my father had to pass in my 30s. And, it's just, we might not ever get that why. Right. Absolutely. But I definitely think that going through something like that, the loss of a parent, is very hard. Yes. But like you said, like maybe there's hope. There is always like a silver lining or hope in the sense of like, what can you do for someone else? Could you be that example of support for someone else? Like you said, Brittany was for you. And then it's also nice to find camaraderie also in those that have also gone through that same situation. So I think that's just really important. But I would definitely say the same thing. Like losing my dad was a pivotal moment in my life that I just never thought that day would come. I don't know. Like you just don't anticipate that happening, and then it does. And it's definitely, especially at our age, we're still young. Yeah. Like my mom, she lost her dad young too. And I think that kind of brought our relationship a little bit, out of a dark time it was in. We could kind of bond with that. But I look around and people still have both their parents and stuff like that, and it's just like, but my grandparents were alive. I still have my grandma. That was really hard for my grandmother. She had to bury her son, and his brothers. But it's just, you look around and you're just like, well, why us? I think that was hard to kind of to deal with too. But looking back on your life and everything you've gone through now, what would be a piece of advice? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but what would be a piece of advice you might give your younger self? I'd have to think about that. What would I tell my younger self? Stay on the course and stay faithful to God. Trust in His process and His will. Whatever He has willed in your life, it's going to be done. You can't change it. You're not going to be able to change the path that He's putting you on. You can guide yourself on a path, I believe. I probably could have made a lot better choices in some things I've done, but I think all in all, having that faith in God that He's going to see me through and He's going to lead me where I need to go. Yeah, absolutely. I know looking back on my life too, it's like there were times like when you're in your 20s, right? You make choices. Like I remember being in college, like there was definitely a time in my life where I felt like I veered away. I still have always kept my faith strong and near and dear to my heart. Don't get me wrong, but I just got a little lax in serving Him, practicing, praying and like just, being in the Word, whatever it may be. But I would attribute too, like my Christianity is a part of, it's a backbone of my life. And I do think that also is what helps me work hard in the things that I do.
I think the Bible says, like, do your works unto God and not man. And I think that's really important. I think so many times I am always looking for recognition from other people, but it's just, that is what drives me as well. Like, just making sure that I'm, pointing it back to him, trying to do what's right in his eyes.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything else, like a goal that you would be interested in working towards in the future? Like, looking at all the different areas of your life, is there a big, audacious goal you're looking forward to?
I really am trying to further my health this year. We've talked about, I've come off to a rocky start this year. Fractured my ankle probably the second week of jiu-jitsu this year. But we're on the mend. Yeah. We'll be out of the boot hopefully next week, and I can just start getting back to training a little bit more vigorously. I wanted to compete this year. Yeah. Still a goal I have in mind to try to compete.
Everyone heard that. Did everyone hear that? She's going to compete more this year.
Okay. Now it's recorded.
Yes, now it's recorded, and now it's going to have to happen. But anyway.
But yes, we will at least try our best. But I do want to compete again. It's been 3 years. I need to dust off the spats and get back on the mats. But but yeah, I'm sitting here talking about putting yourself out there and doing all these things. Yeah. Can't talk the talk if I'm not doing the walk, so I gotta do it. And you're out there crushing it and killing it. And all the girls that started off this year, I mean, look at Mita. She only did it for a few months, and she's out there getting gold. So it's like, come on now, I gotta show up. Some OG skills over here, but we're gonna try. Yeah, we're gonna do our best this year. But yeah, that's a little goal.
And lifting, you've been doing more lifting lately.
We're easing into it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I think catch up with you.
But at least but at least you have these desires, these goals to want to do that. And again, just going back to, I think that's what makes us strong women. Like, right? We're not settling. I don't ever want to be stagnant. No. Like, going back to my work, right? I'm a 19-year teacher, veteran teacher. Like, God bless you. Yeah, I'm tired. I'm very tired. But
subscribe.
Please subscribe, like, and
make
subscribe.
This successful. Let's go.
But it's in that, like, that redundant work that you're doing every day, and it seems mundane, and like, you have to find ways to spice it up, because...
And you do a phenomenal job. If anybody follows you on Instagram or Facebook, they can see what passion and dedication you have for those children, because some teachers just go in there and they get their paycheck and they go home. I know. You actually put heart and soul into those kiddos, and I feel like teaching is one of those things that's only getting harder every year. They're not making it any easier for you guys.
Absolutely not.
That's why I had to get out of there. Yeah. But it's just, it takes a strong person. So your strength is being still in education.
Right? I know.
You're living it. You're going through it. But I mean, I just want to say to you, thank you for having me on this podcast as your first guest. And this is amazing. You guys can't see the whole set. All its glory, but I know it's something you've been working towards for a very, very long time, and you've talked about and you've shared your passion about it, and just to see it come into fruition, you are amazing.
Thank you.
And I wish all the best for you with this. We're going to pray over this. And we're gonna make sure that this comes to be big things. Subscribe to Gunz Bunz.
Well, I can't take the credit. My husband Kevin is my backbone as well. He has bright ideas. Shout out
to our men.
Yep, right? I know. He's always there to support me and lift me up and encourage me, because he also sees sometimes what I don't see, and I bet Chris is the same for you. Like, because again, I would never do some of these big audacious things if I didn't have him in my ear saying, you can do it. Yeah. So that's pretty cool too.
Or putting everything, helping us put it together. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't put half the stuff. I couldn't build the house. He built the house. You know, like,
yeah. I know.
Don't ask me.
Right. But it's awesome that you have that partner that's willing to do those things with you. And
he's very, very ambitious for sure. He keeps the bus going.
What's one thing you're grateful for today?
You having me on here. No, seriously, I really am thankful that you're bringing this together, because I think it's such a good concept, and it's going to be a great podcast. Yeah, you're going to get so many good stories and different stories that are just going to make it. One of those stories are going to resonate with somebody, and whether it's mine or yours or somebody else's. Women need to talk more about what inspires them and what gives them strength and what guides them and leads them, because women need that more than ever today, because I feel like we get stifled sometimes. And not trying to be a crazy feminist or anything,
No,
but
no.
we need to make sure we're empowering each other to do better and to
Right.
keep growing and to not just, be the stay-at-home mom or to be the teacher or to be the,
A title based on what we do in our
be
day-to-day
something more
lives.
than that title, and
yeah.
to get it out there that we are that. Yeah.
Yeah, and going back to the idea of like just lifting one another up, because women can be catty and
For sure.
very competitive with one another. It's just so important to like, build that community around one another, because
free of comparison.
Yes,
too. I feel like
yes.
that's another thing that, especially in jiu-jitsu, we get compared a lot, and
I think we do it to ourselves though too.
For sure we
jiu-jitsu.
do. I think we bring it on ourselves. Our group chats would attest to that. But
Yeah.
but it's, I think ours is like healthy comparison, but I feel like sometimes outside of that, women silently in their head compare themselves. Oh, look at she has all this together and she can do this and this, and then when you sit down and talk to that woman, oh, they really don't have it all together.
Right.
And they really have struggled with things in their past. I know people have had that preconceived notion of me too, like where I am now with my husband, and we are okay in our finances in life right now, but if you would have looked at me before and knew where I came from, you would have been like, oh my gosh, that kid's not going to make it. Or they would have looked at me and been like, she's not going to come out of that, or write me off.
Right.
And
absolutely.
Seeing where I am now, people would have never thought I grew up in certain situations I grew up in, or went through things I went through. But that's just the beauty of what this podcast is going to be for people. Is you can
relate.
You're not going to judge that book by the cover.
Yeah, absolutely. So. I know when I heard your story, I was like floored, because I wouldn't have never thought that about you. Your life does seem so
in depth.
I know, but your life does seem perfect. I mean, you're beautiful. You have, a beautiful family. You guys have a beautiful house. But there's so much hard work and probably obstacles and things along the way that got you guys to that point. And I think the important part is you kept pushing through it, right? Yeah. And so that's what's, I think, so important. And so again, going back to the podcast, like this could be a really good avenue for other women and a chance for them to see that, we should spend more time lifting each other up and empowering one another.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, before we kind of sign off, is there anything else that you would like to share or something we haven't hit on?
Another congratulations to you, girl.
Thank you.
This is amazing. I can't wait for it to take off, because I know it is. Thanks. We're gonna support it, and I can't wait to hear more and see more and hear more.
Yes.
So
thank you. Well, if you want to check out Stephanie's photography, again, one more plug for your photography. It was Stephanie Ciuclea Photography on Instagram, right? Okay, cool. And Facebook, right?
Yes. You can find the Airbnbs on Airbnb and VRBO.
Yeah. Awesome.
They'll be under my husband's name, but you can find them.
Awesome.
We'd be happy to host you. But maybe next time we talk in the near future, I can tell you about more things that's going on, and we can, dive into more. But for now, that's all I got.
Awesome. And I just want to encourage anyone that is listening. It doesn't have to be, again, going back to what kind of keeps you busy, what kind of drives you, what kind of motivates you. I mean, but I encourage you, to get into any type of gym, get active, get moving, because it makes you feel so much better. Find a community of people that are going to embrace you, surround you, and support you and lift you up, whatever it may be. And if it's not fitness, if it's not something athletic, maybe it's some sort of community group or a church group or something.
There's so many groups out there these days. Like so many women, I think, are reaching out and trying to get out of that comfort zone.
Right.
So go on those Facebook groups, and there's sourdough starter, communities. There's
bread making groups. Yes, oh my goodness.
Yes, there's so much going on these days, but just get out there and just go.
Yeah, because it takes a village. I don't know how many times I've had to call my friends.
Yes.
From every walk of life, from every avenue I know them in, every capacity that I know them in. And I've had to ask for help. Like, we cannot do this life alone.
And our group just keeps growing.
Yes.
The community just keeps growing. That's the beautiful thing about once you start that community, it's going to grow.
Yes, absolutely. So I just want to mention that I just hope that you can find something if you're listening to this today, that you can find something like Stephanie and I have, and you can find someone that will kind of support you like we also have, and we have found in our strong group of women that we're friends with. And I just wanted to say one more time, I hope you keep coming back, and I hope you like and subscribe to Gunz and Rollz. But I hope I get to see you next time on Gunz Bunz, our podcast for strong and successful women. Thanks for listening today, and thanks, Stephanie, for coming.
You're welcome. Thanks
Appreciate
for having
you, friend.
me.
Love you.
Ya.